Sometimes the greatest opportunities are born from tragedy. This grand 100-year-old home underwent a tragic arson fire that resulted in severe smoke damage from head to toe. The good news is that no one was injured in the fire, and after the restoration is complete, the home will be brand new on the inside. This series of videos will take you through the restoration process. We'll give you valuable tips on what to consider in your renovation or restoration project, whether it's a small reno or a full rebuild. I hope you'll follow the series of videos as they unfold. Today we're going to talk about finding the right contractor for your project. You probably have started a project or have one about to start, and you need to find the right contractor for you. My client, whose business was destroyed by fire, did his due diligence in finding the right contractor for him. He was looking for somebody who was experienced, reliable, and trustworthy. He chose John Dionne from JD Restorations and Construction. And the best way that I could think of to give you that advice is to get it straight from the contractor himself. So John's here today to help us with some valuable tips on how you can choose the right contractor. John, what advice would you give our viewers on how to select their contractor?
Well, I'd be suggesting that you meet in a comfortable location for both of you, not necessarily the job site, and get a feel for how the relationship's going to go between you and the contractor themselves. Most construction projects are going to take place over a long period of time, and you have to think of this as a long-term relationship that you're getting involved with. We need to work together, and sometimes there's going to be tensions along the way in this project, so we need to be able to work them out together and discuss them, and you need to be open to discussing that with the contractor and comfortable with that contractor.
How can you tell if you have a reputable contractor?
Well, first off, I'd be looking for a website and checking into insurance and legal terms. Is it a real business that this person is operating? Are they operating out of their truck? Do they have insurance, and what types of insurance do they cover off? Does it cover off if they do something wrong, or does it just cover if their vehicle's getting an accident on the way or they do damage? What happens? Who's going to pay you? You want to make sure they're licensed in the trades that they're taking care of. You don't want a handyman doing all your plumbing in your house. You want a plumber to do it. You want to make sure that they hold the proper licenses and they bring people in that have the proper licenses. In order to complete the project, because once they're gone, you have to rely on their insurance and their workmanship to stand up for many years to come.
How can our viewers best check references?
Well, I'd first start by trying to find the contractor either through the internet or through referrals from people. Ask them about testimonials, reference letters, past projects. Follow up and make sure there are actual projects that this contractor took care of. There are unscrupulous contractors out there that will use fake pictures, fake testimonials. Ask them how the project this project had gone. If they're telling you that every project went along perfectly, it should be a first indicator that things aren't being dealt with honestly. You want to check references and actually speak to people and see it, as opposed to just going by what you find on the internet. Referrals, personal referrals, a lot of our business comes from personal referrals, and I think that's your best reference. If a friend or a relative is giving you a name, that should be a good indicator that you've got somebody that somebody else has been comfortable with and has had good results in.
What should be in the contract to make sure our viewers are covered?
First of all, you should make sure that you actually do have a legal contract. The Construction Association produces a template for us all to work with. It will cover off timeframes, legal names and responsibilities, pay schedule, draw schedule, deposits, holdbacks. Holdbacks are important. You don't want to pay too much money up front and be stuck at the end where the contractor's got more of your money than he has into the job to finish it. You want to make sure that there are no unforeseens as far as legal terms in this, that the expectations are set in advance of the project starting. So you know what you are going to have to pay, when it's going to be expected of you to pay, what happens if you don't pay, what happens if the contractor doesn't live up to his promises in it. The contract should be a two-sided contract where the customer is protected as well as the contractor. It should never be a one-sided contract. Also, I would try and avoid a contract written on a basic piece of paper in handwriting or written on a napkin. It's usually a case. Most pricing is done and people call it a contract. A contract is a contract, a quote is a quote. You need to step past the quote part and get to a commitment, and a legal commitment for both sides to protect both sides, both parties.
John, what hiccups might you expect during the project?
Well, that's great. We actually don't anticipate any hiccups, but inevitably there are going to be issues that we're going to come across in every project, whether it's going to be the permit process, our engineering and drawings that take longer than we expect. Weather can sometimes be a factor in getting the projects to completion. Unforeseen things such as such as items that could be found in behind walls. Lining up the contractors on time and making sure that can follow through. You can't always have the next contractor to be sitting waiting for the next step in the process. There might be a day or two in between, or some lag in between. Materials, getting materials on time can always be an issue. You should be picking out materials 2 or 3 steps in advance so that you're not finding out that your ceramic tile floor, or your flooring, or your wallpaper isn't going to come in for another 6 weeks and is holding up the project, or cabinets. Try and have somebody that's going to think further ahead than what's happening the next day.
It's important to establish a realistic budget, but what sort of unforeseen costs might happen?
Typically, I tell all of my clients to try and set a buffer zone. So we are going to stick to the contract and to the budget as much as we possibly can. However, there are always going to be unforeseen things and changes along the way due to things not being available or things hidden in behind a wall. So I suggest to most of my clients to keep a 10%, or to set aside a 10% budget or buffer, to allow for those overruns. I also stress to the client that I'm not looking for that 10%. That's not given that we're going to spend it, but it needs to be there. We'll try and stick to the budget as much as possible, and I think you should hold your contractor to that budget as much as possible, but also be accommodating and aware that it's not hard and fast. There are going to be unforeseens.
Those are great tips, John. Thanks for the valuable information. The 3 key learnings that I got out of that was to have realistic expectations in terms of budget and time frames. Make sure you build in that 10% to your budget for that buffer, and realize that there will be times along the way where your time frame may be delayed. Number 2 is to expect that you'll have hiccups or obstacles along the way that are unforeseen. And number 3, the best thing you can do is to plan ahead as much as possible. Thanks for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, it's Maggie from ForShow Staging.